Yo guys, I really wanted to film this video outside, but just because it was raining and all that, some bullshit happening outside. It's pissing down with the rain and blah 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 blah. I don't want to get too much into that, so this video has to be filmed inside now. But you can see a little bit of the outside scenery through my glass window. Look at the nice little fields. I would be out there filming this video, but I can't do it, so you have to film this video inside today because of the rain issue outside. Anyway guys, the topic of this video guys is going to be about the Freemasons and Lucifer. And I showed you in the beginning of this video a copy of Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. I showed you a copy of that book right there, and it's so fascinating once you get to understand like what the Freemasons believe in, their beliefs about like who rules our planet, who's actually God and all that type of stuff. The Freemasons, they have such a, specifically Albert Pike, there's like these interesting quotes that you can find on the internet about how Albert Pike was like pretty much praising Lucifer. He had this like Luciferian belief, like this Luciferianism stuff, and it's a little bit dubious if the Freemasons actually worship Lucifer or whatnot. Freemasonry, obviously, it's almost nearly impossible to properly understand what Freemasonry is all about. It's almost impossible to understand what Freemasonry is all about. But I do know that certain people, certain conspiracy theorists, they actually have this belief that the Freemasons, they actually worship Lucifer. They're Luciferians. If you go all the way to the top of their type of social order hierarchy, you would come to learn that the Freemasons worship Lucifer. Lucifer, who's Lucifer, is kind of a little bit dubious as well, because if you look at the Bible, Lucifer was like some type of king in the Bible. He's not really even some type of deity in the Bible. In the Abrahamic scriptures, he's not really anyone that's like someone that's too sinister. But according from the impression that I got from like some of these quotes that I found, like Lucifer supposedly it's like this kind of like this dualistic, like this kind of, you know, like in the Abrahamic God, he's like kind of like a hidden deity that's being concealed away from us, and the Abrahamic God is actually evil. And this is like, there was a quote by Albert Pike. Well, I said that, I don't know if it was this quote is authentic. I don't know if this quote is authentic. Should I perhaps put it on the screen? I don't know. Yeah, it should be on the screen. You should see it. There's like this quote, and it's such a fascinating quote. It basically talks about the fact that Lucifer, there's like this God called Lucifer, and he's actually the savior of us human beings. He's the good. There's like two. There's not actually just one God, singular God. There's actually a duality of two gods. And Albert Pike, he made the argument, if you can see it in this quote, that just like there's like light, no light without darkness, blah blah blah, no blah blah blah. Just as like a statue needs a pedestal, henceforth God, the supreme being, the supreme creator, can only exist in two forms, in the good form and the bad form. That actually makes so much more sense to me as well. When I was like kind of thinking about this, the whole thing about there's actually not just one God, but there's two deities in charge of everything, and one of the deities is evil and one of them is good. And according to Albert Pike and a couple of perhaps some other Freemasons, they believe that the Abrahamic God is actually the bad guy. It's like this kind of like reverse, they kind of see things in a very reversed way, which is kind of very also, that's kind of very satanic, reverse things, like the truth can only be seen in reverse, I don't know, something like that. It's kind of very bizarre. But I do think so that the Freemasons and a couple other people like them, they think that actually Lucifer, there's two gods actually, not just one God, there's a duality of gods. And there's like a dualistic reality to God, and that there's two gods and not just one God. And there's like the God of the Bible and the Quran and the Torah and the Tanakh, this God, the Adonai, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, this God's actually the bad guy. And actually, if you start to think about this a little bit, because the topic of this video, by the way, guys, is the Freemasons and Lucifer, because I actually want to get a little bit into Luciferianism. Supposedly, I did hear a lot about how the Freemasons, they're actually Luciferians. Actually, it's a little bit dubious because a lot of Freemasons say that no, they're just Christians. And there's like, with the issue with Freemasonry is there's so many different sorts of groups, organizations, political parties. It's like kind of like a very massive organization, the Freemasons. So you can't really even generalize them or try and attempt to understand them in a very practical way. But anyway, Lucifer is such a fascinating, it's that whole thing about Luciferianism and how the Freemasons, they're actually Luciferians, and they believe in the fact that there's actually two gods. There's a duality here. There's a good God, and the good God is like Lucifer, and the bad God is Adonai, Abraham. And I do think that what was his name, Bill Cooper, he actually created, like, not Bill, yeah, Bill Cooper, you should know. I'll put a picture of him on the screen. Bill Cooper, he actually I'm not going to put any more pictures. I don't want this video to be too difficult to edit. But, you know, like Bill Cooper anyway, but he actually made a podcast as well, and he was talking about the fact that Albert Pike and the Freemasons, they're actually Luciferians, and a lot of the elite and the Illuminati and all these like top elite level people, they're actually Luciferians, as in they believe in some type of like deity. They believe in Lucifer, basically, even though it's a little bit, who is Lucifer? Is that like really a specific deity? Because if you look at the Bible, it's pretty much just some type of king. That's it. It's not really a deity. If you look at the Bible, if you look at any other Abrahamic scriptures, you can't even find any type of mention of this person called Lucifer or God. Obviously, in the Bible, it's like a fallen angel, but even that's kind of a little bit dubious, because, you know, it's like a king, not even like a deity or a supernatural being. But anyway, but if you look at carefully read through the Bible. If you read through the Bible, you're just going to hear about some king. Not really that much. Oh man, it's pissing down. I see it's raining outside. I would have loved to film this video outside, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you got to like come up with like these sorts of solutions. I had to finish filming this video inside for today. But anyway, but the Freemasons and Lucifer is such a fascinating topic, guys. I 100% do think that and this is what Bill Cooper, I was talking about Bill Cooper, and he made do you remember his Mystery Babylon series? Basically, in one of his episodes, one of his broadcasts, he was talking about the Freemasons, and he was kind of like alluding to the fact that the Freemasons they're actually Luciferians. If you go through their hierarchy, if you climb to the top of their organization, you would understand, right, that you would come to know about the fact that a lot of the Freemasons are actually Luciferians. And it really does go back to Albert Pike. Albert Pike is such a fascinating character, historical person. He's very heavily overlooked, which is kind of sad. He's very heavily overlooked, Albert Pike. He's like a historical person. He's like a person that's like very infamous. And he said a bunch of things, and he's very, very infamous in Freemasonry, Albert Pike. But some people would say, well, he's not that important. He's just like one person, one Freemason. Shouldn't like see everything he has to say as being the ultimate truth. But I think he is actually, guys, very much, very, very relevant. And obviously, I showed you in the beginning, Morals and Dogma, that is his greatest work, and he's on here as well. You can see this quote: "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke which all its knowledge." He made a bunch of different sorts of prophecies. He's quite a fascinating guy, fascinating person. But one of the most interesting things he said is there's this alleged quote by him. I showed you it earlier. Basically, he was saying that Lucifer is actually the true God, and that the Abrahamic God is actually sinister and evil. And this has kind of really got me thinking, because it would appear to be the case that if this makes a lot more sense, right? That the Abrahamic God would actually be the bad guy here. If you carefully look at the Bible and the Quran and a lot of the Abrahamic scriptures, there's so many different sorts of questionable things, guys. Questionable things found in the Bible and the Quran. Obviously, you can start with the fact that, specifically the Bible, if you look at the Old Testament, guys, there's quite a lot of like weird, insane things that go on in the Old Testament. Specifically, like if you look at Noah's flood, you know, the Old Testament God is pretty very, very violent and vindictive and vicious, and he does conduct quite a lot of genocides and atrocities, which is quite ironic that a lot of Jews, specifically them, they worship their God, obviously, who is like Adonai and stuff like that, but they don't seem to realize that Adonai is like Adolf Hitler, because Adonai commits a Holocaust in the Old Testament, specifically, you know, like following like the story of Noah and the Great Flood, and the Adonai wipes all life off the face of the earth. Just like what Adolf Hitler wanted to do as well, you know, he wanted to mass exterminate like all Jews in existence. That's always what I found. It's kind of very funny and ironic that a lot of Jews, they worship Adonai, but you know, the biblical God is like almost like Adolf Hitler in so many different types of ways. But you know, anyway, but this beliefs like that, there's specifically this quote just captured my imagination. It really helped me start to think about these sorts of things a little bit more. because it makes so much more sense to me, guys, that I do think that the Abrahamic God is actually the bad guy. That makes a lot more sense to me. Because it explains a lot about our world, a lot about the suffering and all that type of stuff, a lot about the fact that, if you look at the Bible and the Quran, obviously, as well, a lot of the other Abrahamic scriptures, not Hebrew, but Abrahamic, as in like from the Abrahamic faiths, there's like so many questionable things that you would come across. And if you start to read through the Bible, if you start reading through the Quran, I mentioned Noah's flood story. That is like such a prominent story, both in the Quran and in the Bible as well, obviously, where Noah, blah, 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 is like a righteous person and everyone else is wicked and everyone else has to get like pretty much drowned and killed, and all life on the planet, on this planet gets wiped out, and everything comes back through Noah and his progeny and the animals on the ark. Is such a fascinating, that tale is like, but what most people don't realize about that story is that God, Adonai, in the Bible pretty much wipes all life off the face of the earth. He commits a massive genocide, very much like Adolf Hitler. It's not just Noah's flood story. There's other instances in the Bible, specifically the Old Testament. 1 Samuel 15:3, Adonai tells Samuel to wipe out the Amalekites? I'm not too sure, but it was like a genocide mentioned in that type of verse. Damn, it is pissing down, man. Imagine if I went outside to film this video. Would have been freaking wet. I'll show you, it's like pissing down. Sometimes you gotta make compromises, and so I had to finish this video off inside my house. But anyway, Lucifer, the Freemasons and Lucifer, that is the topic of this video, guys. Doesn't it make so much more sense that the Abrahamic God would actually be the bad guy? I actually do think so. That to me makes so much more sense than believing that, because like the issue, that's always the problem of suffering and evil. How do you come to terms with that as an Abrahamic person, as someone that believes in the Abrahamic scriptures and faith, that there's like so much suffering and all that type of stuff? Some people say it's all about being tested, but I don't know, there's a lot of suffering that's like beyond any type of redemption. Like certain people, they get some issues with their body, disease, and they just live their entire lives like that, and they don't really get any type of, there's no like positive outcome. So much suffering results in like a lot of the suffering in our world has absolutely no positive outcome. So that's kind of very fascinating. But the Freemasons and Lucifer, that's the topic of this video, because I do think it's like such an interesting, even though I don't think it's like very, I don't think in general most Freemasons would say that they're Luciferians. It was pretty much just like Albert Pike that kind of really heavily hinted at this in like some of these alleged quotes by him, even though they perhaps might have been forgeries by some other people that weren't even associated with him. I don't know, but it's a little bit dubious, but still interesting. The Freemasons and Lucifer, and this like kind of like this reverse like thinking about the Abrahamic faiths. It's like almost putting things in reverse, which is like kind of very typical of like satanic things. Like Lucifer, like the Abrahamic God is actually the bad guy, and the good guy is like this deity called Lucifer, and he's trying to help us out. And I do remember, if you saw the quote earlier on, something about the fact that Lucifer is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil. And I do think, I wonder how many Freemasons believe in this, and how many elites in the Illuminati and all that actually believe that the Abrahamic God is actually evil and sinister. And there's like a good deity called Lucifer, and he's like kind of hidden away. It's like kind of like this reverse of things, the reverse like interpretation of the Abrahamic faiths in scripture. It's very fascinating indeed. I don't know, it's quite interesting to think about this. That Lucifer probably, it's like, even though, again, Lucifer, what is Lucifer? It's not even like a specific deity at all. In the Bible, if you read through the Bible, Lucifer is pretty much just a, it's pretty much like just a, what is it, just like a king or something like that, or it's like something, not really a deity. But anyway, back to the topic at hand, back to the topic of this video, guys, because Luciferianism in general, fascinating. I do have there's like so much evidence, guys, to suggest the fact that there's like a lot of evidence to suggest, guys, that a lot of the elite, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, they're actually Luciferians, if you go and study their beliefs carefully, I do think that even though Luciferianism is kind of dumb because it's not like a proper religion anyway, it's not like some person got like some type of revelation from this deity called Lucifer. But there's also another quote by Albert Pike about, he was predicting like 3 world wars, and he was predicting the fact that, you know, the state of Israel, which is actually very relevant now for this video specifically, because you can, if you study like the politics of Israel now, when this video is being made, it's like a war going on there. Albert Pike basically was talking about the fact that the Muslims and the state of Israel, they're going to go to war, so we'll create some type of catastrophe, and in the aftermath, there's going to be like, he believed that the people, all the nations of the world, they're going to be like kind of like lost, they're going to be so curious, they're going to be bewildered, and during their like bewilderment, they're going to be receiving some type of revelation from this type of deity called Lucifer. And it was actually in a quote by Albert Pike, and I think it is actually authentic. I think Albert Pike really was a Luciferian, guys. Makes a lot more sense. It's not just Albert Pike, there's all these other Freemasons, and they very much seem to be found like manly people. There's like he talks about the seething energies of Lucifer. Every Freemason will get that in his hands. So it's not just Albert Pike, there's all these other instances of like the fact that the Freemasons, they do seem to appear to be like Luciferians, and Luciferianism is quite, honestly, it's very like mesmerizing and interesting, Luciferianism. And Albert Pike, he said that he actually maybe perhaps I should show it on the screen. You should see it on the screen right now. Albert Pike, he predicted like there would be 3 world wars and blah blah blah, and it would involve like the state of Israel, the Israelis, and blah blah blah, and it would involve the Muslims, and they'll be coming together and having a conflict, and all the nations of the world are going to be so confused, so distraught, and during this confusion, they're going to be receiving the revelation of Lucifer finally brought out into the public view. And I think that's what the Freemasons are conspiring to. I think that's what a lot of secret societies, the Illuminati, they're all, I do think so, Luciferians. They believe in some type of deity called Lucifer, and they're waiting for the arrival of this sort of like this deity, and this deity is going to like send a revelation down. And I do think that the Freemasons, I think not them specifically, but I think perhaps, yeah, definitely Albert Pike, in that quote you saw earlier on, there's just no light without shade, no light without darkness, no beauty without ugliness. I think, guys, 100%, I do think so, from all the research that I did, guys, that a lot of these, like specifically the Freemasons, I think, and the Illuminati and whatever, I think a lot of these people are Luciferians, and I think that they believe in like this god called Lucifer, even though it's not mentioned in like the Bible or any of the Abrahamic scriptures, but they believe in some type of deity called Lucifer. And they think he's like, there's not only one deity, but there's actually a duality. There's 2 deities, Adonai, the Abrahamic God, and there's like a hidden god called Lucifer. And they are, a lot of these secret societies, fraternities, organizations, and groups, they are waiting for the arrival of like their deity, the Luciferic God. They're waiting for the Luciferic God to send down its revelation, its revelation, and to make things merry again. And Albert Pike, he was such a fascinating character, and he was predicting again so many different things. He said that we shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists. He was predicting the fact that in the not so distant future, there's going to be some type of catastrophe brought on through the normalization of atheism. Henceforth, nihilism is going to be normalized as well. And he was also talking about the fact that there's going to be a catastrophe, and World War III is going to be between like the state of Israel and the Muslim nations, and there's going to be a great war. And after the aftermath, people across the world, they're going to be so like lost and distraught, and they're going to be like longing for some type of spiritual meaning, and in that longing, they're going to be receiving something called the Luciferic doctrine. I think that's what the Freemasons are waiting for. I think that's what the Illuminati are waiting for. I think that's what a lot of these like secret fraternities and organizations and groups, they're waiting for the arrival of the Luciferic doctrine, guys. And it's so, if you study, I know it sounds like I'm being kind of like a little bit mentally ill, but if you honestly study a lot of like the Freemasons, specifically Albert Pike, and a lot of what he said, his quotes, perhaps they might have been forgeries, maybe, perhaps, I don't know, but it would appear to be the case, I think, so that a lot of these secret groups and societies, Freemasons, the Illuminati, who are definitely in control, you can feel their influences everywhere. A lot of these people, they're waiting for the Luciferic doctrine. I do think so, and that's what Albert Pike said in one of his quotes about the World War III, and the fact that there's going to be a big fat catastrophe, and blah, 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 and the nations of the world will be divided, and because he literally was specifically, he predicted things so perfectly a hundred years ago. He was saying that the Israel, the state of Israel and the Muslim nations are going to be in a great war, and they're going to be like fighting each other to the point of exhaustion, and the nations around the world are going to be so like lost and distraught about this, and they're going to like be kind of bewildered, and in their bewilderment they're going to be receiving the Luciferic doctrine, which is going to be revealed. And if you look into Islam, do you know about Christology, like the study of the end times, specifically in the Abrahamic faiths? There's like a lot of prophecies about what's going to happen during the end of the world, the end times, whatever, and certain things get mentioned about the Antichrist, the Dajjal in Islam and in Judaism. I think that like because that kind of relates more to Christianity, specifically in Christianity. And even perhaps, is that really mentioned in the Gospels, that at the end, during the day of judgment or whatever, there's going to be like some type of Antichrist, satanic figure? Is that actually mentioned in the Gospels? I'm actually a little bit bewildered on that myself. Is that very explicitly mentioned in the Gospels? I'm not too sure, guys. But the end times, which is kind of fascinating, especially in Islam, you got like the Dajjal. There's like going to be like some type of evil person that's going to come during the end of times, and he's going to be like trying to distort things. And I think that kind of perfectly ties into like Albert Pike, the Freemasons, and these higher fraternal groups and organizations, and they're conspiring to bring about this sort of like this, the revealing of the Luciferic doctrine. I think so, guys, 100%. I think so, that a lot of the people that are in charge and a part of these fraternal organizations, groups, societies, whatever you want to call it, they're actually Luciferians, guys. I think so. I think a lot of like these like very high-ranking Freemasons, like Albert Pike, Manly P. Hall, they're Luciferians. They believe in like a dualistic nature to our world and our universe and God, and they think there's actually two gods, and the Abrahamic God is the bad guy, and there's like a hidden God called Lucifer, and he's the good guy, and he's trying to help us out, and he's going to be sending his revelation down, which is going to be quite fascinating. And it's so like you can see like everything that Albert Pike was talking about is just coming to pass right now, specifically like with the state of Israel and the Muslim nations about to fight. And there's like a lot of hostility now between like Israel and the Muslim nations, which is kind of fascinating. And it kind of does relate back to Albert Pike, because he was predicting that there's going to be like some type of World War III event, which is going to be ushered by some type of conflict between Israel and the Zionists and the Muslim nations. And this is going to bring about some third world war, and everything's just going to go haywire. And we're all going to be like kind of bewildered. And in our bewilderment, we're going to be finally receiving the Luciferic doctrine, which is so fascinating and interesting. The Freemasons and Lucifer, this is such a, I do think that Luciferianism, there's going to be like, you always hear about the New World Order. What does that actually mean? A New World Order, what does that actually mean? The terminology, the phrasing, all of that type of stuff, what does that actually mean? A New World Order. Basically, honestly, I do think so that a lot of these secret societies, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, they're preparing for a new world religion to arrive, a new religion that's probably going to be developed. It perhaps most likely is going to be Luciferianism. And these like secret societies and fraternal groups and organizations, they're going to be like waiting for the Luciferic doctrine to arrive and to be revealed, and that is what's going to take hold of the world. And I think that religions like Christianity are going to be done away with. Even in this quote like about the 3 world wars, Albert Pike was saying that Christianity, atheism as well as both, all like is going to be destroyed. Luciferianism, this new religion, is going to just dominate everything in our planet, and that's what the Freemasons, I do think so, that's what they're waiting for. I think that's what the Illuminati are waiting for. I think that's what a lot of these secret societies are behind the scenes. They're trying to like bring about this like new world religion, Luciferianism. Actually, it sounds so ludicrous actually, but if you look into like a lot of these quotes by these like infamous people like Albert Pike, that's what they're alluding to, that the fact that there's going to be a new religion that's going to be arriving, henceforth a new world order, and this new religion, Luciferianism, that's what's going to take over the world, and all the Abrahamic faiths probably going to be done away with, and blah, 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 and atheism as well, because Albert Pike was saying that both Christianity, especially in America and Europe, Christianity and atheism will both be wiped out, and a new religion, Luciferianism, that's what's going to dominate our planet and the world's politics in the future. This new religion, Luciferianism, and I do honestly think that the Freemasons, they are Luciferians. People like Albert Pike heavily allude to it in their various quotes and sayings and writings, including Manly P. as well, not just Albert Pike. There's so many different infamous people within the organization of Freemasonry. They talk very vividly about Lucifer and Luciferianism and all that type of stuff. It's not just the Freemasons. I think the Illuminati, I think a lot of these other secret societies, they're all pretty much, I think so, Luciferians. And I think that they're waiting for the arrival of this new religion, Luciferianism, the Luciferic doctrine. That's what they're waiting for. They're preparing for this they're wanting to like wait a little bit so they can receive this type of new Luciferic doctrine. And it sounds, quite honestly, it just sounds kind of like ludicrous, like a lot of these different conspiracy theories that I'm talking about in my videos. But I think this one really hits the nail on the head, guys. I think so, that a lot of the people that are at the top of our society, specifically the Freemasons and a couple other people as well, they're preparing the world for a new world religion. I think there is certainly a new type of religion on the way here. Pretty much Islam was like the newest religion. Actually, which in terms of like major world religions, like, well, what is like the newest religion? It would have to be Islam, obviously. Some people would say Sikhism, perhaps, even though, yeah, perhaps maybe even though that's, but Sikhism's like not really even that impactful compared, especially compared to Islam. I think that in terms of like major world religions, I think Islam is like the newest world religion. And I think that the Freemasons, these people that are in charge of our society, they're going to be like bringing about a new world religion. Perhaps, I do think so. It's going to be called Lucifer. Maybe it might not be called Luciferianism, but, you know, something similar to that. There's like Luciferianism is probably going to be like brought about into our world. There's going to be a new religion, and in the advent of this new religion, I think the Abrahamic faith that probably is going to get wiped out. I think atheism as well, because Albert Pike, he was talking about the fact that not just Christianity, but atheism will also be wiped out. This, like, because certainly right now, a lot of people, they're becoming atheistic. They don't believe in any sort of higher power. Henceforth, they're becoming, a lot of people actually are losing like some type of their existential purpose. They believe that we are merely just like physical robots, products of evolution and the Big Bang, and there was no God whatsoever. A lot of people have this like mindset that there is no higher power. And if you really think about this, if you believe that there is no higher power, that means that you don't, like, you get an excess. How can you believe that your life is meaningful? How can you have any type of higher purpose? And it becomes all so absurd. Atheism, actually, it's kind of disheartening that so many people turn towards atheism, this lack of belief in a higher power. Because honestly, if you don't believe there's any sort of higher power, you pretty much believe that we're just pretty much meaningless then, and that there's no like deity or God, purpose-giving God that's out there looking after us. That's kind of very depressing indeed. But, you know, Albert Pike, he was predicting as well that not just only the Abrahamic faith, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, but also atheism, agnosticism, all these other things, they're also going to be wiped out. All these like the world religions, like there's going to be a new religion that's on the horizon right now, and the Freemasons, I actually do think they're preparing for it, guys. I think that the Illuminati, they're preparing for the arrival of this new like type of religion. I do think it's going to be like something Luciferianism. It's not really, maybe perhaps it might not be technically called that, but it's just Albert Pike. He said so many different interesting things, but specifically he mentioned the fact that there's going to be like a war that's going to occur between the state of Israel and the Muslim nations, and this war is going to be conducted in such a way that both these groups mutually destroy each other. Henceforth, the rest of the world is going to be so distraught, so like bewildered, that the rest of the world is going to be like kind of like looking for some type of higher spiritual purpose, but they're not going to be able to find where that spiritual purpose is, and they're not going to be, and Christianity isn't going to be taken seriously anymore. And Albert Pike was saying that in this turmoil, in this like bewilderment, the Luciferic doctrine is going to be revealed. And the whole world, the whole nations across the world, they're all going to become Luciferic. This new religion is going to take over the entire planet, Luciferianism. And I think that's what a lot of the secret societies, guys, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, all these groups that are behind the scenes, I think that's what they're conspiring for, guys, 100%. I think so. That Luciferianism, this like new religion that's going to emerge on the world stage, because, you know, right now, pretty much the newest world religion is Islam, pretty much. I don't think there's any other type of major world religion that's as impactful, that has been as impactful. Obviously, you got Sikhism, but that's not really that impactful, especially compared to Islam. But, you know, I think that, you know, it's definitely Albert Pike, he was making this sort of like little prediction that there's going to be like some type of World War III scenario, and the whole world's going to be distraught and bewildered. And in that bewilderment, this new religion is going to start to slowly emerge. It's going to be a new doctrine that's going to be revealed, the Luciferic doctrine, and that is so fascinating to me. And Albert Pike said that everybody would pretty much like be like me, like kind of like catering to this new doctrine that's going to be revealed, the Luciferic doctrine. It's such a fascinating. It's so interesting if you study a lot of the quotations by Albert Pike, and I didn't make a lot of videos. A lot of my videos do relate to Albert Pike, because a lot of his predictions and prophecies, they are so on point, because a lot of what he says has come to pass is so obviously true. A lot of what he says is so on point. I'm not even going to like it's so like hard to like not to ignore him and his predictions and prophecies. But specifically, one of the things that I know about Albert Pike and a lot of these like high-ranking Freemasons is that they believe that there's going to be a new world religion that's going to arrive, the Luciferic doctrine. I think that's what they're all conspiring for. I think that's what the Freemasons, the Illuminati, all these like hidden organizations, they're all awaiting for the arrival of the Luciferic doctrine, this like new doctrine related to like Lucifer, and that this God called, they believe in like a duality, that it's not just one God. You know, in Islam, in the Abrahamic faith, that's actually very that's what's like very emphasized, that there is only one God that's worthy of worship. These like people, the Luciferians and all that, they believe that there's two gods actually, and that the Abrahamic God's actually the bad guy, and he's duping you, he's tricking you. It's like, oh, I'm the only God that's worthy of worship, even though there's another God called Lucifer. And that's what these Freemasons, they're trying to like bring down a revelation from this other hidden God that has been kept away from us by the Abrahamic God, by Adonai and his because Albert Pike truly, if you look at that quote that I mentioned earlier, Albert Pike actually believes that Adonai, the Abraham, maybe Albert Pike might not actually believe this. Maybe that quote could have been a forgery, but I actually think it's not. I think there's like a lot of legitimacy to that quote. Albert Pike, he actually believes that the Abraham, not Albert Pike, but maybe perhaps him, but that quote, I think certainly some Freemasons perhaps do believe that the Abrahamic God is actually the bad guy, and there's like a second God that's the good guy, and that is like the truth here. Such a fascinating topic, the Freemasons and Lucifer. That is, I think, Luciferianism. I think there is like a new religion on the way, guys. I think that's what the Freemasons are trying to conspire towards. They are wanting to like wait for a new religion to arrive. Luciferianism, not just obviously Luciferianism, and perhaps they're waiting for Lucifer, this new doctrine from this other God that's hidden away from us. And I think that's what a lot of that's what the quote that by Albert Pike was alluding to, that I showed you earlier, that there's actually two gods, not just one deity, but two gods that are controlling our planet. And actually right now, the evil God, Adonai, the Abrahamic God, is actually in control, and he's manipulating everything. But the second God, Lucifer, is probably going to come around and give us like his own revelation. We're going to be receiving some type of revelation from this second hidden God. And I think that's what a lot of the conspiracies surrounding the Freemasons and the Illuminati, I think that's where it all comes down to, guys. I think that these people, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, I think they're just awaiting for the arrival of this new religion, the Luciferic doctrine, which is going to be revealed very, very soon. If there is like a World War III scenario, which seems to be very likely now, especially considering like the wars between Israel and the Muslim nations, I think that, the Luciferic doctrine, I think that's certainly something that's probably going to get a lot of traction and leeway. Has it stopped raining? Maybe I should have. It's good that I got this video done right now. I don't want to be wasting time waiting for the rain to stop. Yeah, the Luciferic doctrine, guys. I think that's what it all comes down to, guys. The Freemasons, I think the Illuminati, and all these other people, I think they're awaiting for this new world religion to arrive. Luciferianism and the Luciferic doctrine that's going to be revealed and get given to us. I think that's where all of this is coming from, guys. I think that's why. If you look at the state of Israel, because Albert Pike, he was actually talking about Israel. He was talking about it before Israel was even a thing. He talked about this in the 18th century. According to that quote, he said that the Zionists and Israel and the Muslim nations, they will mutually destroy each other, and a new religion will be emerging from this aftermath of destruction, and that will be Luciferianism. And this new religion probably is going to wipe out all the other like Abrahamic faiths, and it will be wiping out Christianity as well, and atheism as well. This new religion that is on the horizon. That's what all of this is about, guys. There's going to be a new religion that's going to be emerging sometime in the future. And Albert Pike, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, the secret societies, they are all like ushering this in, and it's kind of like quite insane indeed. The Freemasons and all these other people as well, they're awaiting for the arrival of this new religion, the Luciferic doctrine. I think that's what's going to dominate the world's politics in the coming future. This new religion is such a fascinating topic, guys. There's going to be a new religion that's going to be emerging soon, the Luciferic doctrine, and it's going to sweep the world and take over our politics and our countries. And this new religion, I think, because you look at Islam, the end times predictions, one of the things is the Dajjal, this like Antichrist figure, This like very like, it's almost this person that's going to be like, it's almost like a prophet, but he's like not a prophet of the Abrahamic God. He's a prophet of some other type of deity. And I think there's the Luciferic doctrine. I think there's going to be like some type of person that's going to be like a prophet, like Prophet Muhammad, but he's going to be a prophet of this other God called Lucifer, and he's going to be bringing down his own revelation. I think that's where the Dajjal is going to be coming from. I think that's what the Antichrist is. This person, because a lot of the Freemasons, they believe there's two deities actually, the Abrahamic God, and there's another God called Lucifer. And the Abrahamic God Adonai he has been like keeping us away from like this true benevolent good God called Lucifer, and the Abrahamic God, the God that's actually evil. If you look at the Bible, this makes so much sense. The problem of suffering and evil. How do you reconcile that? Actually, you can reconcile it easily by merely just acknowledging the fact that the Abrahamic God most likely is evil. There's going to be like this second God called Lucifer, and he's going to be sending down his revelation through like the Antichrist like person. And I think that's what it's all about. I think that's what's going to be happening in the future, guys. I think that's what the Freemasons are waiting for. I think that's what a lot of these secret fraternities and groups and organizations are planning for. They're waiting and they're preparing for the arrival of this like Antichrist like character, and it's going to be quite mesmerizing and interesting. And only time will tell anyway, but it's so interesting. The Freemasons and Lucifer, I was just like, all these like quotes by Albert Pike, I don't know if they were forgeries, they're probably all forgeries. I don't know too much about Albert Pike. It's not like I've talked to the guy, he's dead obviously, but it's not like we had a nice chat and he told me a little bit about his beliefs. Obviously it's not like that, so a lot of this is like speculation, but that's what I honestly think that's what's going to be happening in the future. I think that's where the world's heading towards. I think that's what all these secret societies are conspiring towards. A lot of these secret societies, they're Luciferians. They believe in like Lucifer, basically. This, even though Lucifer, what is that? It's not mentioned in the Bible or any of the Abrahamic scriptures. They believe in like a God. They believe in God, but not in the Abrahamic God. They believe in like the second God called Lucifer, and they believe that this God is going to be sending down his revelation and doctrine, and they're preparing for this. And that's why all these like different sorts of political events that have happened in our past. You look at Israel, the state of Israel, the British were really pushing for it. Why is that? Because certainly the British, they're like sort of like the homeland of the Freemasons. A lot of British people, actually Freemasonry was born inside of the UK. So, and it's not a coincidence that the British and a lot of these other European countries will be pushing for Israel, because this is the part of their plan, because they want a war to happen in the future between like the Zionists and the Muslims, and they want some type of mutual destruction of both groups, and they are waiting for like Lucifer, this Luciferic doctrine to be revealed, and that's where it's all heading towards, guys. I think there's going to be this new religion of Luciferianism, the Luciferic doctrine, and that's what's going to be revealed in the distant future. In the not so distant future, and you can see it's already coming to pass with the wars right now with Israel. And I think it all falls perfectly in line with Albert Pike and his prophecy. It's so fascinating, guys. Very much is fascinating. It's so interesting, guys. The Luciferic doctrine, there's like a hidden God called Lucifer, and that's what the elites worship, and that's who the Freemasons worship. We all are so naively stupid. We believe in like the Abrahamic God, the evil God, while the elite, the enlightened people, they believe in Lucifer, the true benevolent God. It's quite honestly, it's very fascinating to think about this indeed. It's so interesting, the prophecies by Albert Pike, and they're all coming to pass, and you can feel it right now. The Luciferic doctrine being revealed, that's so fascinating, guys. So fascinating. And it's coming to pass, and you can feel it. You can feel like the effects of Albert Pike's prophecies so strongly, guys. The Luciferic doctrine is so important, guys. And I think that's what the Freemasons, the Illuminati, these secret societies, they're all conspiring for some type of they were trying to allow this new Luciferic religion, the new Luciferic doctrine to arrive. And there's going to be a new religion that's going to emerge on our planet. And I think so. And I think that's going to take the world by storm. And I think a lot of people are going to fall for this new religion, and they're going to convert to it, perhaps, maybe. Only time will tell. A lot of this is speculation, but it's so interesting to speculate and to think about these sorts of things. Very fascinating indeed. Albert Pike is such a fascinating character. The Freemasons are so interesting as well. Obviously, we'll never truly know what the Freemasons believe in. It's all they're so even Albert Pike, if you read his literature and his works, he talks about the fact that they deliberately dupe and trick you and push you down the wrong path, so you don't properly understand them. And I think that's so interesting. I think that's very much the case. And it's quite honestly, it's very fascinating indeed. If there is going to be a new doctrine that's going to be revealed, the Luciferic doctrine, the God of Lucifer, there's a lot of these secret societies, the Freemasons, they believe And basically, they believe in Lucifer, the fact that the Lucifer, this type of dual, this like second god that's actually been hidden away from us. And they believe that this second God is going to be giving us his revelation, and there's going to be a new religion that's going to be emerging on our planet, and it's going to be taking everything by storm. And it will be so like everybody will be so distraught, and they'll be completely on board with this new religion, because a lot of people are probably going to lose any type of spiritual meaning and purpose, and it's all going to come to pass very soon. And it's such a fascinating, the Freemasons, definitely, certainly very fascinating people and fascinating organization. This whole video is like so interesting. Hope you really do carefully think about it, or don't just be like kind of, oh, what, this guy's like a dodgy nutcase, he's talking about Lucifer, Freemasons, Illuminati, he must be mentally ill. Hopefully you guys actually kind of contemplate on a lot of what I said in this video, and I think that's about it now, guys.